Hi, today we're having a conversation with Jeremy Barnes, CEO of FESCO Company Limited, listed on the junior market on the JSE. We're going to be talking about recent news relating to an acquisition of the assets for Wilson Beck LPG Limited. So we're going to hear from the CEO, hear the details of that transaction, get as much information as we can. We understand that we may not be able to hear all the details just yet, but just as much as we can so that we can have an understanding as to the background and context of this transaction. If it's your first time here, I'm Jermaine, CEO of L.E.A.R.N, Grow, Invest, and we do interviews like this to help provide you with information so you can make wise investment decisions. So, let's just get into it.
Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N, Grow, Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest.
All right, so let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for this day and for the ability to produce wealth. We pray, Lord, that this will be a meaningful conversation and that it will enrich all those who will hear it. In Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Jeremy, welcome.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for having me again.
Happy to have you on. I was very curious, of course. The minute the news broke out, I sent Jeremy a message. I was like, Jeremy, can we speak about this? Jeremy's like, sure. And so just thank you for being so open, as you normally are, to have conversations with us, just so that we can understand what's happening with FESCO and all the details surrounding the company.
All right, no problem.
So before we get into the details, let's kind of set the background, right? So we have had previous conversations where we would have seen where you sought to raise money to invest in LPG infrastructure. So you would have been doing that for maybe the past 6 to 12 months, maybe even longer. What was the current state of those investments, so to speak? I'm talking pre-confirmed acquisition.
All right, so I guess everybody know by now, and it's evident from my shirt, FESCO, and the brand for cooking gas is FESCO. Yes. We've been planning this LPG move for about over 2 years now.
Yes, you stated in your prospectus as well.
Right, from acquiring the license to do so, to acquiring assets, and there's a lot of assets to acquire at significant cost. Yes, we've been strategic in how we plan how to build out our network, similar to the gas station business, where you don't necessarily have to own all the service stations. In LPG, you don't necessarily have to own all the filling plants. We've strategically gone about how we decide which assets we want to acquire and own ourselves, and which assets we prefer to have participation from outside, partners or investors. Insofar as this acquisition, it has been in the making. It was a pretty, a quick transaction, but transaction takes months. It's not, it's not a week. It takes months.
I was actually going to ask you what was the time to close the deal from, maybe early conversations to the announcement we had last week.
I'd probably say less than 6 months.
Okay.
But again, it's in keeping what we wanted to do, which is, again, there's a lot of different kinds of assets to own. The most significant of which is actually storage. And what I mean by storage, I mean storage tanks, whether mobile, meaning bobtails driving along the road delivering LPG to commercial customers, or storage tanks at commercial customers' locations, or cylinders at each and everybody's home, or even the storage tanks at filling plant. There's a lot of storage involved, with the cylinders at people's home being the most significant of those assets that you have to have. It's one of those businesses where if a customer wants your, to partake or to patronize your business, you just have to have cylinders to be to fulfill that request. And cylinders is made of steel and other materials, and they take a long time to make, especially if you want a lot, and we want a lot, and we've been acquiring a significant amount over the past, I would say, a year and a half, because the lead times, especially when we started in COVID. I remember at some points in time, shipping out of, let's say, the East, which is Thailand or China, moved from like 3,000 a container to $22,000, $23,000 per container. So we've moved through a lot of all those logistic challenges, cost challenges, and as I said, it's all a part of the asset mix. You have to have filling equipment, you have to have cylinders, you have to have vehicles, you have to have infrastructure, you have to have tech, and obviously you have to have the people. Because again, this is a people-intensive business we're going into also, and with specialist skills, etc. So we've, that part of our growth started Q3, or I think we made that disclosure evident in our last report, where we said that we'll be onboarding additional talent,
Yes.
right, which will impact the cost structure of the company in the short run, but it's necessary and creates value in the long run.
Okay. So in terms of, so you said you've been discussing the transaction for roughly 6 months, give or take. What did you see specifically with Wilson Beck that was attractive to acquire? Like what specifically are they bringing to the table separate from what you would have been investing in before?
Well, it's a turnkey operation, which creates value in and of itself. Meaning you can just open the door and the business starts. So it cut down the lead time to get permits, NEPA permits, etc. The business is there existing. So that was a big part of its attractiveness. In addition to that, they had assets, and they do have a lot of assets, including cylinders and storage tanks, etc., which was in keeping with assets that we wanted to acquire.
Okay. So it's a full. So let me go to the notice. The notice to the JC mentions just the assets appeal to us for many reasons, including the plant's capacity and throughput, and so on. So in terms of, so you essentially know, FESCO essentially now owns all the assets and infrastructure for Wilson Beck. Is that a correct way to look at it?
Correct. All the LP assets. So we did not buy the company. We didn't purchase the shares of the company. We purchased the assets of the company, which includes storage tanks, trucks, cylinders, technology, processes. Plus, they had a very competent staff, which we've decided to hire. So we got people, we got processes, we got assets that were ready to deploy.
Okay. So in terms of the path forward for you, what does it look like in terms of that now integration between what they would have already and what you are trying to do? You did set a target for this year for service to the customer. I know you said you had some plans for Q3, but what does the next few months look like in terms of now integrating both companies?
Well, the process has started last week, where we're testing a lot of our technology, our systems, with their systems. So, and we're developing what you'd call it, beta testing. So we're going through all the ironing out all the kinks, so to speak. Filling cylinders, we're testing them in the market. So there are, very small pockets within the country right now where we'll be, testing some of our systems. So there are, FESCO cylinders available in very select markets at this point in time. But right now it's not a full rollout. We're just testing our systems and our processes, so that when we do launch, um, you're getting a product that has been tested.
Okay. Any idea as are we still working with the September date for launch?
It will be earlier. It will be
Earlier.
earlier. Not ready yet to disclose that date, but there's a lot of testing to be done. Um, there's a lot of testing to be done. So, and there's a lot of infrastructure to build out, marketing collateral to
Yeah, figure, and there'll be like rebranding of existing assets for Wilson Beck, right? So
correct all of that. So you have to repaint all the cylinders. There's a lot of steps involved. But I have a great team. Really proud of the team that we have assembled. I think the board and the HR department did a pretty good job in getting and recruiting talent. And I think they have come on board and they'll do well. They have done well.
okay. All right. So I mean, we do have some questions here. So let me just inform everyone, if you do have questions relating to this transaction for FESCO, please post them in the chat now. We're gonna make this just a very brief, interview. So we're only taking questions that's related to the acquisition, nothing outside of that scope right now. So I'm gonna take some of those questions now. I see Nicholas asking, so he sees that FESCO is available in Mandeville. When can he pick up his £100 from Beechwood? And what about changing the cylinder regulators? Will he be facilitating that? And will companies like Valley Gas be selling? So that's like 3 questions in one for you.
All right. So yes, it's available in Mandeville from Heavens FESCO. That's one of our testing points. When can you pick up your £100 from Beechwood? I'll definitely post that. We'll post that on Instagram as soon as you can. But pretty soon. And what about changing of regulators? Yes, we do. We do have regulators in stock. A lot. Again, you have to build out the entire supply chain and delivery chain for everything. So we do have, both types of regulators in stock. And will companies like Valley Gas be selling it? Yes, we do plan to have a mix of companies that will be able to deliver to the market. Dealers or distributors, we have not yet spoken to Valley Gas, but we're aware of them.
Okay, so that actually brings me to another question. Thank you for that, Nicholas. So 2 questions I have from that response. One, how many parishes do you expect to start in terms of distribution, and how many potential outlets do you foresee, if you can share those?
Excellent question. Kind of too excellent, but I'll try to navigate it without giving away too much. We won't be going all island. That's a bit ambitious, given the constraint of cylinders. Again, it takes a tremendous amount of cylinders to go all island. If you say Jamaica has 3 million people, maybe we have 800, 900,000 households. And you have to have a cylinder for every household. That's a lot of cylinders to just have our manufacturer or even import at one point in time. So we won't be going for the entire country all at once. Where, I guess, the location of Bernard Lodge kinds of tell you that we'll be operating within that environment, and where we can access from that point economically. But I won't at this point be telling you exactly which parishes will be. But it's kind of self-evident.
Can you say how many parishes?
I mean, it's pretty safe to say out of 14 parishes, maybe 7.
Okay. Okay. All right. And in terms of number of suppliers, we assume it may be available at most, if not all, of the FESCO locations, or some, I guess, maybe better suited for it than others. But based on the question about value gas, will you also be trying to work with partners to help with providing that service to the customer?
Yes, we would definitely work with partners. A lot of the cooking gas market is a convenience market, similar to the gas station business. It is a convenience business. Nobody drives from the grill to fill up gas in Kingston. They rarely do, and if they make a trip, it's about convenience and locations and delivery points. So yes, we'll have a mix of delivery points that make delivery of or your customers accessing FESCO pretty easy.
Okay. All right. So Renee was saying that it's an important clarification when we discussed that you purchased the assets, not the company. Can you explain the difference between the two? I think someone was asking that as well. I think Sean was asking what's the difference if you purchase the assets only versus the entire company or shares in the company.
Well, I mean, it's similar to, let's say, FESCO. I was to sell an asset of the company car or a company truck. It's not the entire company, not selling the limited liability stock in that company. Why one would choose one over the other? When you buy a company, you inherit all of its liabilities and assets. Some of those liabilities may be contingent or not yet known, and you don't necessarily want to take on all of those assets or those liabilities, in a particular transaction. But for this transaction, it was, best done the way we did it. Not that they had any liabilities or anything like that. It was just it was much more of a seamless transaction, structuring it this way.
Was it something that's on the table that was mentioned at all, a full acquisition of the entire company?
It's not something we were looking at. It's neither something they were looking at. So
Okay.
I think it, is best suited for us to do it this way on both sides.
Okay. All right. Shaq is asking what were the revenues like that were generated from those assets that were acquired?
You mean what you mean how well?
I think he's asking what I think they're asking what Wilson Beck's revenues are like
Again,
currently.
it's a private company. I don't think they'd want us to talk about their finances at this time.
Okay.
What I can say is that it was a pretty young company. It started in
I think about
COVID.
2+ years ago, yeah.
I don't even think I think it's they're registered, but I don't think they were operational for 2+ years. I think they're just operational for just over probably a year
Mhm.
or a year and a few months. They haven't probably a year and a half. I don't think they've been operational for 2 years.
Okay.
So the assets are new.
Yeah. A question came to mind, but I'll ask you that one offline
Mm.
based on that response. So Morris is asking, what is the strategy that FESCO has in place for the loss of cylinder to other companies, etc.? And will FESCO be giving out free cylinders at the start of their journey in the LPG sector?
Well, I think the Fair Trading Commission, it's been an issue within the sector where cylinder exchange between companies has not been what you would say best. It's an issue that's in front of the Fair Trading Commissioner, and the minister has put it as an important issue to promote competition within the space. So I think nothing. There is a working group right now that is, arranged and attended by all participants to encourage fair practices, which includes cylinder exchange. It simply means if I'm going to your home and you have a blue cylinder, and I collect a blue cylinder and replace it with a fresh gas cylinder, the blue cylinder company, I'll make the blue cylinder company know that I have their cylinder, and they can freely come and collect it whenever they, whatever is
Ah,
convenient.
yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
it encourages uh, people being able to access their assets easily. So I think that impetus, or that the energy behind that Fair Trading Commission move, and I think it was the Ministry of Industry and Commerce that pushed this discussion between the parties, including the Ministry of Energy. It's a good thing, and it's very
Yeah, I can just imagine that a company can have its assets pretty much being like they pretty much can just lose it that way. Yeah.
correct. So it's a very important discussion that's currently ongoing, and yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Sean is asking, where did the funds come from to make the purchase for the
All right.
assets?
So you do remember that we borrowed twice last year, in
Yes.
March a billion, and in December a further 700 million. So in total we've borrowed about $1.7 billion for LPG, and so it was from borrowed proceeds. We have, I believe we have, I can't quote Q4 numbers yet, but
Mm.
over the past year we have spent, I'd say, on LPG we have spent 1.7 billion, but we've also invested in other
1.7.
parts. But we have spent a little more than that, but we've also invested in other parts of the business because we are also growing our gas station network. So it's
Yes.
safe to say that in the past year or so, we've spent in investments that have not yet hit the P&L, probably 2 billion plus. So when we start to realize gains and revenues and profits from these assets,
Okay.
you
So I think the
you
main thing Sean might be leading to is that there was no debt or any loan that was used by the company to finance the acquisition.
no, non-specific. I mean, when you borrow the 1.7 billion, you get thereabout in cash, and then use the cash to do what you need to do. So we funded
Okay.
that transaction out of the cash raised from the debt.
Okay. Understood. All right. So question from Deandra. Deandra, how can FESCO be more beneficial or better to customers who are new to the company while having competition like Gas Pro that Jamaicans usually buy from? So I guess she's asking what the value add for FESCO will be and how you'll be able to convert customers who maybe are used to using a certain provider.
Excellent question, and that's speaking of the entire value proposition and our campaign that we're going to launch in the coming months. Um, we do believe that there are certain things that are guiding transactions. People want something of a high quality. They can't give away too much, but what I would say is similar in the space where if you look at our gas stations, our new gas stations, there's a certain level of aesthetics, quality, service, convenience that we've prided ourselves on, and we're going to take the same approach with cooking gas. So we want to improve the service delivery, we want to improve the convenience of it. Um, so there's going to be a difference between a fest gas cylinder or a fest gas service delivery than there is for the regular. But again, you're going to have multiple distribution points, which you have to, because Jamaica is not a flat terrain.
Yeah.
Jamaica is flat around the coast, but the interior is hills and valleys and plateaus. So there is going to be a mix of delivery points. What does that really mean? As I said to my staff in many meetings, KFC in Jamaica is a dining restaurant. And then, remember, KFC got a lot of its push if you're old like me, because they had free refills. So people used to go there.
Yes, wow,
Yeah,
I
man.
remember that. I
Yeah,
remember
man.
that. Wow, wow.
Yeah, man.
Yep,
So whether you did play football, prep school football or high school football, after a match or whatever, the team would go there and maybe buy chicken and maybe one drink,
yep. I remember those days. A
one
one
drink,
drink service
a
for
one drink
everybody,
that
pretty
served for the
much.
team. But it was a dining restaurant, and then it added drive-through, which is a
Yeah,
different delivery point. And as you see now, they're building restaurants with bureau windows for delivery. So having the distribution of KFC has changed, it has evolved, but it's still a dining restaurant. So without giving away too much, there is going to be different delivery points again for FESCAS.
okay. All right. So Sean is asking, where will FESCAS primarily operate from? I figure the Bernard Lodge point will be the primary
One off.
Bernard Lodge. One of the
One
well,
off.
you can only have one primary, right? So
No, I mean, again, you have gas stations. Which gas station is primary for you? Depends.
okay.
So, we'll have multiple locations.
Okay. And Sean, if you missed it, Jeremy mentioned that at least 7 parishes to start, or about 7 approximation, and different a mix of delivery points as he mentioned. So that's how things will be. So Jeremy, my final question for you, because I did promise you that this will be brief. In terms of the remaining steps from here right now to the path to the first customer being served, what are the remaining steps? So you mentioned, rebranding of assets, maybe ramping up and training up the team, but can you help us see that vision to launch?
All right. So I can give you a couple insights, guys, out there. So as you can see from our website, it says, I think the FESCAS JA website or even the FESCO website, it says something's cooking,
Mhm.
right? And then I think people, when they drive past Beechwood Avenue, they see the tagline, "Know you're cooking with FESCAS." So that's a journey, from, something's cooking to now you're cooking. The first FESCAS customer has already been sold. We're
Ah,
already using it at home. Because we're testing it. It's not out there, in large quantities, but we are testing the product, ensuring that everything works how we want them to work. There's a lot involved, a lot of steps involved. Um, Again, the scale at which we want to come in is pretty large. Okay. Um, if you think about it, and again, I don't want to give away how much cylinders we have, but just think about where you would store all those cylinders. So we do have facilities around the country that stores cylinders for us, and it's a lot of cylinders in a lot of containers in multiple locations. And
and more
I'm
than
talking,
100,000.
I'm not going to answer that, but
No, I
it's a
didn't. I
whole.
didn't want you to answer. I just wanted you to think about it. This
Right.
one.
So if you was thinking of a number like that, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of moving parts. There's seals, there's the cylinders themselves, there's setting up, there's a whole lot of steps in between here and where we go. And
Yeah.
just ramping up that production level or throughput capacity. So we're doing all of that at this point in time. Training, a lot of different things. And the truth is, FESCO is a lot about innovation. So we're doing a lot to innovate the space. Even on the gas station side of the business, we're the first in many things. For Jamaica, we're first in balanced vapor recovery at a gas station. We're the first in blending dispensers at a gas station. So we blend E1088. We're the first under the canopy to have E1093. We're also doing some firsts in the LPG space where we're going to, tell people about that, and it's increasing the technology right through the network. So we're pretty proud of it. I'd love to tell you more about it, but I just don't want my marketing team to, give me some, quizzical looks on my face like, Jeremy, we're planning all of this. I just give away everything in one evening. So I'll give them the opportunity to do what, to launch what they want to launch when they want to launch it. But suffice it to say, we didn't take 2 years to come out flat. We took the time. I mean, there are a lot of, any company you have, there are short-term goals, there's medium-term, and there are long-term goals. So even though LPG is more of a short-term goal now for us, because the time between here and launch is within 4 months.
Yeah.
It's short-term now, but at one point in time, it was a long-term goal. And currently, we do have other medium-term goals and long-term goals, separate and apart from LP. So as you're also aware that we plan to open, at least, and I'll say at least, because it's at least, it could be more, 2 new stations this year. So we also do have a lot of plans. So just because we said we're going to do LP for 2 years now and you haven't seen it, we've been planning, we've been investing, and we're doing a lot of different stuff, as you can see. Bringing, technology and, a lot of innovation to this space. And I think with LP, we'll continue to do so. As I said, when the team announces some of the stuff that we have done, but you can just look at our track record. We've done a lot in what one would consider a mature market, but there's always space to innovate. We strongly believe that.
Yeah. All right. So the final question that I see here from DeAndrea again, she's asking, what are the major impacts that FESCO will have on a company? So what do you expect to see in terms of maybe moving the needle in terms of revenues, net profit, etc.?
Okay, so a big question. All right, so I'll give you a level of scale. I can't speak to numbers at this point in time, but I can give you a level of scale. There's about every month in Jamaica between probably 100 to 112 thereabout million liters of gasoline sold. So between 87, 88, 90, whatever, is about 100 to 112 million sold on average. For cooking gas is about between 14 and 16 million. Between 13 and 16 million. So the cooking gas market is about 1/8 to 1/9 of the gas market, transportation market. Now, if you're talking about cost of butane is a little less than $80 a liter. The cost of gasoline is closer to $190, $200 a liter. I think it's about 170 at ex-refinery. So if you're talking about the absolute cost per liter, it's about half. So it's already 1/9 and then another half. So it's about 1/18 the size of transportation. However, there are different margins involved because to get to the customer, it entails a lot. It's more capital intensive. With a gas station, with transportation, if you just need a gas station, the customers come to you. With LP, you have to have a cylinder to take to the person's home. So there's a bigger investment. Once you make a bigger investment, you require a bigger return. So the math of that really is that LP has better margins. There are better margins obtained, but those margins have a bigger cost structure from depreciation to, and depreciation is big, from depreciation to staffing to, recovery. What does that mean for us in the short term? Short term is we invest in now. There are costs that we have to pay now, which is staff. There's a lot of stuff, in the short term that we're paying now before we have, revenues to cover it. So in the short term, the costs will outweigh the revenues, but we do believe in the medium term, there's going to be a crossover. And, when that crossover happens, you'll see, better margins for the company on the whole. and increasing profitability. We didn't go into this not to make money. So
Yeah. So I mean, I hope that was clear for you, Deandra, and it makes sense, right? You've been making the investments over the past year since you've obtained that 1.7 billion.
mhm,
You've made in excess of 2 billion overall investments. You said most of that cost would have been to put in infrastructure. You'd have had the acquisition now, so we likely see some of that costing being reflected in your
correct.
next report. And then of course, once you're now public for in terms of FESCO being available for sale to the general public, then
Mhm,
that will start to slowly take market share and build up over time. So you're hoping that midterm, the investments that you'd have made will start to get you to a point where you move from break even from a loss to break even to profitability, and then overall
correct.
with the different investments you're making in the company and its infrastructure, overall profitability and revenues should be at an acceptable point in the medium term as well.
Correct. Plus, what you'll have in addition to is somewhat of a diversification. So, being multiple sectors of the energy market. So we can take advantage of, I mean, just give you an example. When there was less transportation during COVID, there was far more cooking at home.
Yes.
So, diversification helps. Again, if you just look at holidays that just passed, people drive a lot less. However, they cook a lot more. There's a lot of baking going on. So this was one of those, you know, what do you call it?
Would have been a
Nice.
good opportunity. Yeah.
Right. So it's one of these nice periods for LP. So, there will be some, what that allows is some income smoothing where, where one business, um, is not growing as much, the other is. But, we've been really focused and targeted at FESCO, in looking at ROI, and we've been able to, with the transportation side of the business, to generate ROI, strong ROI, which have enabled us to, make these acquisitions, or even to, facilitate the debt to acquire these LP assets through prudent investing of the limited resources that we do have. And as I said, it really comes from looking at multiple time horizons. So we're constantly looking at what's right in front of us, but we're always looking medium term and always looking long term. So I think I've said this to you many times, Jermaine, that a gas station don't take it take 3 years to build. So if you have a short mindset, a short mindset is not for you, because the truth is, you can't really design a gas station for today. If you're building a gas station 3 years hence, you
Yeah.
have to design it for something that you expect to happen 3 years hence. So we're always thinking, in three different time frames: short, medium, and long. And that's why, as I said, we've tried to be, innovative, even in a mature market. And I think that our customers appreciate it.
Okay. All right. So I know I promised you no more question. We are over the time, but I promise you this is the last one. Can we
Mhm.
expect to see any further acquisition in the LPG space for FESCO before this calendar
Expect
year is over? Yes.
Expect, I wouldn't use the word expect. I wouldn't
Okay.
use the word expect.
Okay.
I would say
Are we
if they're
likely to?
if they're out there, they can call me, email me, and let me know. But I wouldn't use the word expect.
Okay. Okay. All right,
Not
Jeremy. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add before we closed out.
Well, I just want to tell everybody that again, something's cooking, but soon you'll be able to, as I say, know you're cooking with Fest Gas, and it's a big part of our company. It shares the front of the shirt with FESCO, Fest Gas. So it's a pretty prominent part of the business. I mean, if you look at our balance sheet, you know that it's a very strong part of our business, and we just can't wait to get out there and for you and everybody else to be cooking with Fest Gas.
All right. We look forward to the future updates. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for the opportunity to get a little bit more insight into the overall transaction. And we look forward to what's to come. I know we'll get more details as the months progress, and
Yes, sir.
all the best to the company.
Thank you again. Always a pleasure.
All right.
Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
And follow us on all social media platforms